Good morning, everybody. Michael Hellickson here with Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting. Hey, we are absolutely excited about the material we're going to be sharing with you today. We're going to be talking about how to triple your net income in 89 days or less. I know a lot of you are probably freaking out thinking, there's no way that's possible. But I'm going to show you exactly how it's possible in just a second here. So before we do, I want to jump to my PowerPoint slides. I want to share those slides with you so that you can see the content that we're talking about today and so that I can answer some questions right off the bat. For those of you who are thinking to yourselves, I have no idea who this Michael Hellickson character is, let me go through that super fast. So I'm going to shut my camera off and I'm going to turn my screen sharing on. And you should now be seeing my screen with the PowerPoint. So here we go. So we're talking about how to triple your monthly income in 89 days or less. Now, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Michael Hellickson. I'm a coach with a company called Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting. And just so you know that I'm not some guy that's never sold real estate before that's just all of a sudden trying to come in here and tell you, oh, here's how you do it, but doesn't really know. Well, let me share this with you. I was a broker and an agent for over 20 years. I was very consistently listing and selling over 100 homes a month. And I was at one point, I had, and I say my team and I had 750 listings at one point in time. That's a lot of listings. We were also bringing in just about 6,352 buyer leads per month. That's not counting internet leads. That's actually just sign calls. And then, of course, some of you have probably seen me on CNBC, Fox News, Dave Ramsey, Glenn Beck, and some other national and local radio and TV programs. Now, Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting is our company that what we do is we coach real estate agents nationwide. Now, I want you to know that we're not going to be doing a sales pitch on today's event. This is literally a content-driven webinar. I'm just going to give you a ton of content, not selling you anything today, literally. And so I just want you to grab a pen, sit back, take great notes, and be prepared to implement what you learn. That being said, for those of you that are interested in learning more about coaching with us, you can certainly go to our website at clubwealth.com, and there you'll find a link where you can sign up for a free strategy session. Now, it's important to know that our strategy sessions are not a big pitch for coaching. The strategy sessions with us are literally one of our coaches who produces at a higher level than the people that they're coaching. So if you're in tier one, let's say you make $0 to $150,000 a year, the person that would be doing your strategy session would be in tier two. So they are someone who's doing a minimum of 150 to 500 a year. If you're making $1 million a year, then your person that would be doing your strategy session is somebody who's making over $2 million a year selling real estate. So anyway, that being said, feel free to go to our website, sign up for a strategy session, and let's get right into it. So what I want you to find out is, first of all, is it possible? Is it really, truly possible to triple my income in 89 days? And the answer is yes. Absolutely. It is not only possible, it's actually very easy to do. But now I want you to understand that what we're talking about is net income here, right? We're not just talking about gross income, and tripling your gross income is fine, but the sad reality for most agents is that even if they tripled their gross income, they aren't tripling their net income. And so the reason for that is that their exponential expenses go up beyond that of their net worth or their net income. So that being said, what you got to know is it's going to be different for every agent depending on where you're in your business. And what I mean by that is how you get there. If you're in tier one doing 0 to 25 units, how you get to tripling your net income is going to be different from somebody who's doing 25 to 75 units, or someone who's in tier 3 doing 75 to 150, or tier 4 doing 150 to 250 units, or tier 5 doing 250 units and more. Understand that regardless of where you are at in your business, today we're going to be talking about simple steps that every single agent can take to triple your net income month over month in the next 89 days. Now, here's what I want you to do. Again, you've got to take notes. I told you this a minute ago. Remember, if you don't take notes, you're going to be lucky to retain 4% of what we talk about today. When you take notes, you will retain anywhere from 8 to 12%. When you take notes and you teach someone what you learn, you'll retain anywhere from 18 to 21%. So please take notes and teach somebody what you learned today. All right, so there's only 2 ways to increase your net income. This is really important. Again, we're talking about net income. It doesn't matter how much money you make. What matters is how much money do you keep. That's the number that you should care about. The problem is that Our companies don't talk about that. They like to talk in terms of volume, right? Why? Because it always looks better than what it is. It's a great way for broke agents to feel like they're successful, to tell them that, oh, you're $1 million agent. Well, that's great, but I don't have any money, right? And so I want you guys to start thinking about net income and understand that it's not about what the rest of the world thinks. It's about what you take home at the end of the day. So there's only two ways to increase that net income. Here we go. We can make more, or we can spend less. That's really it, right? So making more money, I see agents all the time. I've seen million-dollar, multi-million-dollar producers. I mean, I'm talking about people that are earning gross commission income in excess of $2 million a year that literally are living paycheck to paycheck. That is not okay, you guys. That is not where you want to be in your life. It's certainly not where you want to be in your business. It's definitely not where your spouse wants you to be. So what we want to do is we want to increase that net income. Now, when it comes to spending less, we're going to talk about some things that are going to be pretty unpopular. And I'm going to start with the spending less, and then I'm going to tell you how to make more. And the reason is the easiest way to increase your income is actually to spend less. So let's get right into that. So when it comes to spending less money, the greatest return on your investment is the avoidance of expenses and taxes. Now I want you to think about this. Essentially, I've got to earn about $1.38 for every dollar that I want to spend. So the actual cost of a dinner, for example, is assuming you operate at a 38% profit margin. And generally speaking, if I'm the Lone Ranger and it's just me and I'm working 24/7 and I don't have an assistant and I don't have any expenses because I only work by referral, well, okay, you can operate at a higher profit margin than that. But what kind of life is that, right? I mean, now I'm married to the business. That's not the kind of life I want. And remember, our core value statement at Club Wealth is no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. So let's remember, we've got to have that balance in our life as well. So let's assume then that I'm not going to be the Lone Ranger, right? Because the Lone Ranger is essentially an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody that it's all them. They've got to do it all the time. And if they go on vacation for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2 months, whatever, when they come back, they have to start over again. Whereas if I'm a business owner, in other words, I go on vacation, I come back, I've got more business than when I left, then I'm running my business very differently, but there's a cost to that. So I'm not going to be operating at as high a profit margin, but I'll very likely be operating at a higher net profit. So let's talk about those margins. If I'm in a team, and let's say that our team is between let's say between 6 and 20 people on the team, I'm probably operating at a margin of about 38 to 48% on the high side. The reality is a lot of teams, because they're not watching their numbers close enough, are operating at between 18 and 28% profit margins. But for the sake of argument today, I just want to use a very simple example, and let's assume that you're operating at a 38% profit margin. So if I want to go out to dinner, I'm going to have to go out and I'm going to have to make $366 at a 38% profit margin, gives me $139.08. I subtract out, let's assume I'm in a 28% tax bracket, that leaves me with $100. So in order for me to spend $100 on dinner with my family, my business has to earn $366. This is scary, you guys. This is something, I'll tell you, Doug Holliday was the first guy to point this out to me. We started talking about the cost of dinner, and it cracked me up. As soon as we went through these numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh, what an epiphany. I hope you're having the same epiphany that I had, which is, it's kind of back to that whole Ben Franklin thing, a penny saved is a penny earned. It's a lot easier to just simply spend less and keep more money than it is to go out and make more money. Now, what did Benjamin Franklin say when he talked about penny saved is a penny earned? He was talking about, it was the library of the library. You'd go to the library and to check out a book, you'd have to give them a penny. Well, you would get your penny back when you bring the book back. And so when you bring the book back, it's considered a penny saved. And he's saying that, of course, then you've earned that penny. So bottom line, learn that we want to first spend less and then we're going to make more. So let's look at what that looks like. Here's some unpopular, yet very, very important wealth building strategies. Number one, and this one, I'll tell you what, as soon as I say this, there's going to be people, we will probably lose 1 or 2 people on the webinar today as soon as you hear me say this. But I want you to know that this is very true, and it is, if you can't pay cash for it, you shouldn't be driving it. Period. End of story. There's no reason for you to be driving a $80,000 car when you have when you don't have the ability to pay cash for it. I was literally the #1 agent in the country driving a 1998 Toyota 4Runner with over 250,000 miles on it. You don't need a fancy car to be successful in real estate. And anybody that tells you that you do, they are lacking in sales skills. If you have great sales skills, you will not need a great car. Now, I'm all for you driving your Mercedes or your BMW or whatever. That's all fine and good. That's great. But pay cash for it. No leases and no payments. And there's people that'll say, oh, but Michael, what about the tax benefits? And what about the advantages that I get that way? And I can deduct it. That's not worth it. You're still having to pay more money for it. We want you to be in a cash position. Very, very important. All right. So now I want you to maintain 6 to 12 months of expenses in cash. So if my expenses every month are $3,000, I'm going to have between $18,000 and $36,000 worth of expenses in the bank at all times. This is very, very important. Some of you are thinking, well, Michael, if I had that kind of money, I wouldn't be on this webinar today. I wouldn't need to triple my income. Well, the reality is that in order to triple your income, you've got to develop the financial discipline necessary to triple your net income, not just your gross income. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so I also want you to learn to live on less than 70% of your net income. So think about this. Your business needs to be a separate account from your personal account. This is very, very important. Too many people are combining their business and their personal accounts. They're treating them as one as the same, and that's not how it works. So you want to have your business money going into a separate account. You pay all your business expenses out of that account, and then whatever's left after you've paid all your business expenses, now you get to live on 70% of that after you've paid taxes on it, of course. So you're going to pay your tax on it, and then you take what's left, and you got 70% is what you get to use to live on. The other 30% you're going to spend on investing and on savings, and you're going to have a little bit of money that you can use for other alternative purposes. But you want to literally live on less than 70% of what you make. It's hard to do in the beginning. I understand that, but you've got to develop the discipline to do it. All right. Now, I want you to invest in what you know. Stop investing in things you don't understand. Too many real estate agents have lost too much money because they invest in the stock market or other things that they're really not experts in. You guys on this call right now are experts in real estate. That's what you need to be focused on. Go invest in what you know, and what you know is real estate. I want you to buy a minimum of 1 rental per year. 1 rental property per year. And I know a lot of people love to say, but Michael, I flip properties. Well, that's great, but that's a good short-term strategy if you really know what you're doing and you're really good at it and you're having success with it and you're making great margins. As a long-term strategy, not so much. Long-term strategy, you really want to make sure you're building up your passive income. If you read any Robert Kiyosaki, and by the way, I highly recommend that you read Robert Kiyosaki's book. There's 2 of them that I recommend. Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant are 2 books that Robert wrote that you should read both of them. And he talks about getting out of the rat race. The rat race being, I got to go to work every day to earn a living. And once I'm out of the rat race, what that means is my passive income is greater than my expenses, my monthly expenses. So literally I can choose whether I want to work or not. Doug Holliday is a great example of this, right? He's our investment coach at Club Wealth. And so he's actually our Provident Living coach in Club Wealth. So Doug literally has the choice now. He doesn't have to work. He can completely retire because his passive cash flow, that's cash flow he doesn't have to work for, is greater than what it costs him to pay his bills every month. That's the goal, you guys. Let's get there. And it's a lot easier to get there when our expenses are lower. If you have expenses of $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, it's a lot harder to get there than if you have expenses of, $5,000, $10,000 a month or whatever your number is. So learn to live on far less than what you make. All right, now, spend fearlessly for needed things. This is important. I'm not saying go be a spendthrift. I'm saying there are some things that are necessary for your success. Coaching is one of them. Lead generation is one of them. There's certain things that you need to spend money on in your business if you want to be successful. You have to have an MLS key. You have to have key boxes. You have to have signs to put in the front yard. There are things that you have to have in this business. Well, spend fearlessly on those things, but be very, very, very careful about spending money on things that are of no worth or no value to you. Watch out for the shiny objects. And there's lots of those shiny objects out there. We get distracted all the time, so don't allow those things to take you away from your focus of living on less than what you make, keeping your expenses low, and your income high. All right, now, how do we make more? Let's talk about that. How do we make more money? First of all, you got to begin with the end in mind, right? So I got to know what my goal is. Well, what is more? Like, more is a bad goal. Triple my income, triple my net income, that's a great goal because it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I've got to begin with the end in mind. I've got to change my mindset. We got to get rid of the stinking thinking, right? We've got to really focus on where is my head and how do I get my head in that right spot? Then I've got to up my game. I got to improve my skill set. The fact of the matter is, in real estate today, there are a lot of agents that really suck at what they do. Now, some of them are great at taking care of people, but the reality is most of them, or a lot of them anyway, are terrible at lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion, which are the three most important things that every agent has to do every single day if you want to succeed in this business. So very important. You've got to up your game. You got to improve your skills, and we're going to talk about how to do that in a moment. Fact of the matter is, you got to work harder. If you want to make more money, you're going to have to work harder. Now, some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, Michael, I'm working, 24/7, 365. Well, my hunch is that that's not all efficient time. My hunch is if you're working that much, you are probably very inefficient with a lot of those hours. And I can tell you this for a fact because one of the things that we do with our coaching clients is we go through and we have them track for 2 weeks everything they do every single hour. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, we go back in and we look at what did they do. And here's what's crazy. Most of them think they're doing a lot of lead generation. But once we've figured out, once we've delved into it, we discover very quickly that the average agent is doing less than 2 hours a week of actual lead generation. 2 hours a week? Are you kidding me? That's horrible. Now, I'm not talking about calling FSBOs and expireds and notices of default and that kind of thing, or circle prospecting or anything like that. There's lots of ways to prospect. There's lots of ways to lead generate. Those particular ones are just some of the ways, and frankly, they're not the funnest ways. They're not, for most people, that's not realistic. Some people just won't do those things, and that's okay. You don't have to do those things to be successful, but what you do have to do is you have to work hard. I'll give you an example. Last night, I was up very late last night. I was literally up until 1:43 is when I stopped working on this presentation, and I was up and I went to bed. I got to bed about 2 o'clock, and I had to get up 3 hours later for my first call at 5:30 in the morning. So was it 3.5 hours later? That being said, that's not every day for me. I have more balance than that in my life. But there are times in my life, there are days in my life where I have to burn that midnight oil and I have to work hard. We'll talk about that as well. Working smarter, absolutely critical. It's not just about working harder. We've also got to work smarter. We've got to use our time better, and we've got to do the right things with that time. And then leverage. Even if you're not a team leader, now this is the myth. A lot of people think the only way I can leverage myself is if I hire other people or if other people work for me. And first of all, I would challenge you that if the right team leaders understand that nobody works for them, they work for the team, that the team leader works for the team, not the other way around. And the best team leaders really understand that. Now, that being said, even as a team member, I can leverage without having to be the team leader and take on all of that responsibility and risk. So we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Let's start with beginning with the end in mind. All right, so Napoleon Hill said this in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read that one, that's another great book that you guys all should look at. So he talks about the beginning of the end in mind, which means I've got to understand where I'm going before I begin. So what's your average net in monthly income over the last 6 months? I want you to grab a pen and paper right now, grab a pen and paper, and I want you to write this down. I want you to figure out So take, how much did you make in the last 6 months? Add up all the money you made in the last 6 months, or if you want, you can do it over the last 12 months. Or to make it even easier, maybe you know what you made last year. Great. Now, what I want you to know is what net income did you make last year? Because we don't care about gross. Remember, we're not worried about gross because gross just looks good to everybody else. What we care about is net. That's what our family needs. So what's your net income, and then divide by the number of months that you figured out. So if I took my income from last year and I made $120,000 and there's 12 months in the year, I'm going to divide by 12. My average net monthly income would be $10,000. Now, once you've done that, I want you to take that number, multiply it by 3. This is your goal. This is very simply, this is what we're looking for. So if my number, let's say for a lot of the agents on the call, let's say my number was $5,000 was my average monthly net income. So my new goal is going to be $15,000 a month, right? 3 times that 5. All right, so here we go. That is a SMART goal, and here's why. Well, it's almost a SMART goal. We're going to need to make it a SMART goal, and that's because it's specific, right? So it tells us exactly what we're going to accomplish. It's measurable. We'll know when we get there, right? And we'll know when we get to a certain point if we've gotten there or not. It's attainable, right? Now, you may not realize it's attainable right now, but it is attainable. It's definitely realistic if you do the things we're talking about today, and we now need to make it time sensitive. So what I want you to do is I want you to put a time to it. I want you to decide, when am I going to triple my income by? So whatever that date is, if you're going to use the 89 days, then let's use the 89 days. Pick a date 89 days from now and decide by that date my monthly income, net income, will be X. Okay, so once you've got that written down, we're going to move on. Now we need to talk about our mindset. So for me to accomplish this, I've got to have my mind in the right spot. So first and foremost, I want you to stop taking advice from people who make less money than you do. Immediately, you cannot be taking advice from people that make less than you do. And I know this sounds harsh, but the reality is if I want to climb Mount Everest, I need to be taking advice from someone that's been there before. I don't need advice from someone who's never been there trying to tell me how to get there. It cracks me up. It floors me that to this day, there are real estate agents out there that pay thousands of dollars a month to coaches that have never sold a house in their entire life. That makes no sense to me. So make sure that you stop taking advice from people that make less than you want to make. Then be willing to change. You absolutely have to have decided that, you know what, I am willing to change what I'm doing. I'm willing to change how I feel about what I'm doing. I'm willing to change what I believe is possible. I am open to this change. Then you've got to be determined to make that change. What does that mean, right? Like, how determined do you need to be? Well, first, you got to draw a line in the sand. You got to say, look, this is where I'm at. Like, I've hit zero, and zero may not be zero, right? You don't have to have $0 in your bank account. Zero for you might be $10,000 in the bank or $20,000 in the bank or $1 million in the bank. But I want you to figure out, what is my zero? At some point, there's a number that when you get below that number, you start getting a little freaked out, a little anxious inside, right? I love that. That's what we want. And I want you to continue to increase what your zero is all the time, because I want you to feel anxious. I want you to feel the need to go out and crush it. So draw that line in the sand and say, there's no way I'm crossing that line. No matter what, I'm always going to have this much money in the bank at the very least. Then you need to be taught what you need to change. We're doing part of that today. So you need to understand, what are the things I need to change? And then you need to be coached on, how do I change those things? Very, very important. Now, as part of that coaching, by the way, there's a big difference between babysitting and coaching, right? I'm not talking about somebody that calls you up every week and says, so how many calls did you make? How many contacts? How many appointments did you set? How many contracts did you write? That is a complete waste of time. That's a babysitting call. And if you need to be babysat at that level, you have a bigger problem than how do I triple my net income. You have a problem with self-discipline. Don't allow that to be you. Winners do not look to outside sources for accountability and for discipline. They seek that within themselves. They create that within themselves. And because they create that within themselves, they are successful. You cannot look to outside sources for motivation. You have to be the reason that you're motivated, nothing else. That being said, you got to program your subconscious mind every single day. Now, this is important. Did you know that your subconscious mind is far more powerful than your conscious mind? And what's really crazy is your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between reality and what you tell it to believe. So knowing that, you can literally change your belief system particularly your subconscious, which is the stronger part of your brain, you can completely change that belief system by simply telling yourself what to believe. Now, I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. I'll give you an example. Affirmations, right? Now, I'm not talking about, the whole Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me, right? That's not what we're talking about. That's seriously not what we're talking about. That's lame. Don't be that guy. What I'm talking about is more like a Tony Robbins incantations style affirmations. Tony Robbins says, he gets his full body into it, and when he does his affirmations, he's saying things like, I'm going to get this listing at my price and for the term I want and for the commission I want. And as he's doing this, he's throwing his arms up and down, he's waving his arms, he's jumping up and down, and he's got body motion into it. And because of that body motion, his mind, his subconscious mind, internalizes it at a different level than if he's simply saying one thing over and over and over again. So it's very important to get your body into it and really get vocal with it. Really let it become a part of you. Be excited about it. All right, then what about vision boards? John Assaraf. Some of you have read the book The Secret. John is one of the guys that wrote The Secret. So I met John one time over at Bob Allen's house. And we were having a conversation about The Secret, and we were talking about that story. So he had this vision board, in all his life he's done vision boards, and he puts up, he takes essentially a board, and we do this with our coaching clients. We actually send all of our coaching clients a piece of tag board and scissors and all kinds of cool stuff so it's easy for them to put together their vision board. And some people do it electronically and some people do it physically. I like it physically because there's a kinesthetic thing that happens. There's a connection that happens kinesthetically in your brain when you physically glue a picture, for example, onto your vision board, and then you put that up on your wall and you're looking at that every day. Well, John did this, and John literally, he had pictures of all these stuff that he wanted, cars he wanted, money, vacations he wanted, houses he was dreaming of, things that he expected to accomplish in his life. Then what he did was every year he would update his vision board, and he'd take the old one and he'd put it in the garage in a box. Well, he moved several times over the years. He had a son, and his son, one day comes up to him and he said, Dad, I've been looking around to the garage, and I was looking at your vision boards, your old vision boards, and he says, did you know that our house is on it? And John says, well, what do you mean? He says, well, our house is one of the pictures on your vision board. He says, oh, you mean I had a picture of a nice house that I wanted to live in? And his son says, no. The house we're living in is on one of your vision boards. And sure enough, several iterations earlier, years ago, several moves ago, John had he had taken a picture. There was this aerial picture of his house, and he had taken this picture and he put it on his vision board, and he literally, without even realizing it, ended up buying that exact house many years later, and now was living in that house with his family. It was this huge mansion in California, and just, amazing story, right? Well, it's vision boarding, right? It's the power of really truly being able to visualize and understand and believe in your goals. And so very, very important. Now, some other things that you can do to help with programming your subconscious mind are things like videos, right? What videos you're watching. Like, you're doing it right now. You're on a webinar to learn how to be better at what you do. You're on a webinar to learn how to triple your net income. This is what you're doing. You're programming your subconscious mind. You're giving yourself that new reality. Continue to do that. Only watch the best stuff. Do not watch nincompoops, right? Stay out of that stuff. Because here's the thing. Your brain is GIGO, right? It's like a computer, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. So make sure that you're only allowing good information into your brain. Now, podcasts. You need to be listening to podcasts and other good information. Reading books. How many books are you reading a month? The smartest people in the world are reading lots of books. Not just the smartest, but the most successful people in the world read a lot of books. All right, next thing you need to do is you need to be active in the Facebook group. That's the site is on your screen right now. It's facebook.com/groups/Club Wealth. Get active in the group. Learn from the people in the group. Ask good questions and engage. When you know an answer for somebody, share that answer. What you'll find is you will learn more by teaching than you will by being taught. So it's very important that as you learn information, share it with somebody else, and it will deepen itself in your subconscious mind, and it will become a part of who you are. Very, very important. All right, next, I want you to talk crazy with me for just a second. I want you to literally right now, immediately, I want you to commit to taking one full phone-free day off each week. Now, some of you are probably thinking, how is that going to help me triple my income? Let me tell you something. This is exactly what you need to do if you want to triple your income. If you're working 7 days a week, and that means, I know some of you are thinking, oh, well, Michael, on that 7th day, I do a few things for work, but I don't really work on that 7th day. I just answer a phone call once in a while, jump on Facebook, whatever. Hey, listen, I'm talking phone free. If you want to up your game, if you really want to make more money, you want to triple your income, you got to unwind. Think about this. Think about the guy that's out there chopping down trees with an axe, right? He goes at the tree, he's chopping it down, he's working hard, he's cutting them down. He gets, halfway through his day, he's cut down a whole bunch of trees, and what happens to his axe? His axe is getting dull, right? So what's he got to do? He's got to take a break, he's got to go over, and he's got to sharpen that axe. Because when he does, he'll be able to go out and he'll be able to be more effective and he'll be able to chop down more trees faster because he sharpened his axe. Are you really doing that? And the reality is most people aren't. Most people aren't sharpening their axe. And you need to be, you guys, I love you. I want you to have success. I want you to triple your net income. You have to sharpen your axe to do this. So take that one phone-free day off each week. And I'll tell you this, if you're not willing to do that, I'm not willing to coach you. If you want to be a part of Club Wealth, then you need to commit to taking one phone-free day off each week. And guess what? You will see better results. It will blow you away. I'll give you an example. Brian Curtis. Brian, as many of you know Brian already, he's an amazing human being. He's one of the coaches here at Club Wealth. When Brian met me in February of 2015 is when Brian and I met. And the year before, Brian's best year to date thus far was $225,000 in gross commission income. Now, what's really crazy is Brian came to me and asked me to coach him, and he was referred to me, and I didn't want to coach him. I loved him. He's a nice guy, but I didn't want to coach at that point in time. I really thought I was done with coaching and real estate and just was kind of enjoying being quasi-retired. And anyway, long story short, he pressured me into it. And so I asked him, I said, well, when's the last time you had a day off? And he says, well, Michael, I haven't had a day off in 3.5 years. Now, this sounds crazy to you, but the reality is that's not uncommon. That's very common for a lot of agents out there, that they're not taking any time off and then they haven't really truly had a full day off in 3.5 years. So here's what I want you to think about. So he came to me and I said, look, I'll make you a deal. If you will take one phone-free day off each week, I will coach you. Much to my dismay at the time, he said he would. And so I said, okay, cool. I'm obligated now. I'll coach you. So he started taking all of his Sundays, most of his Saturdays, and most of his evenings off. And in the next 7 months, he made $675,000 in gross commission income, up from the $225,000 the entire year before. His income just exploded by doing a couple things. One, he started taking more time off, and two, he got coaching. And those two things combined to really help him open up his mind frame and really program his subconscious brain properly, and to get himself into a position where his axe was sharp and he could go out there and crush it. So start taking that time off, you guys. And by the way, the next year he did even better, and this year he's on track to do 350 transactions this year on his local team, not even counting his expansion teams. So pretty awesome. All right, that being said, I want you to also eliminate the naysayers and the negative Nancys. You guys, this is a big deal. There are people in your life that are blood-sucking vampire vultures. I'm telling you, these people want nothing more than to bring you down. Every time you get excited about something, they feel like it's their job to make you unexcited about it. Every time you start making progress, they think that it's their turn to drag you back in and to destroy the progress you've been making. It's like crabs in a pot, right? You put a bunch of crabs in a pot, you start boiling that water, one crab starts climbing out of the pot, all the rest of them drag him back down inside the pot. You guys need to avoid these people in your life. They are toxic. They are destructive to your life and to your business. You need to eliminate these people from your life. If you want to triple your income in the next 89 days, getting rid of these people in your life is a big part of that. Now, some of you might be saying, but Michael, my spouse is one of them. I can't just get rid of my spouse. And you're right. I'm not telling you to divorce your spouse. Or, maybe it's your family members. Maybe it's your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, whatever. Maybe it's your kids. You can't divorce these people, right? Our family matters. That being said, you can control how you interact and when you interact with them. I'll give you an example. When I'm out on appointments, going on listing appointments, right, I was doing 50 to 75 listings a month, working 12 days a month. That means I was going on 6 to 8 appointments a day. Well, let me tell you, if you're going on 6 to 8 appointments a day, you need to be game on. I mean, literally, you don't have time to screw around, and you definitely do not have time for negative stuff in your life. And if somebody calls you up and starts feeding you with negativity, it screws you up on that next appointment. It completely changes your mindset and pulls you out of state. We talk about this in terms of being in state. So we need to remain in state, or first we got to get in state, then we got to stay in state when we're on our appointments. So I'll give you an example. When I was going on these appointments, I literally told my wife one day, I said, listen, Tara, I love you. You mean more to me than anything in this world. You need to understand that. There are times, and I'm going to be transparent with you guys here. My wife and I love each other dearly. I am absolutely in love with this woman. She is an amazing woman. I am lucky to be married to her. That being said, we don't always get along. There are days that we don't get along well. You know what? That's part of life, right? That's part of being married. But you know what? We love each other anyway. And I will tell you this conversation that I had with her one day, I said, listen, sweetheart, I love you more than anything in the world, and I am here for you for the rest of eternity. I am going nowhere. I am yours for eternity. That being said, what I need you to understand is when I'm on appointments for the day, if something's going on, if you're mad at me about something, if I've left my socks laying out, or I've left the cap off the toothpaste, or whatever, or one of our kids gets a bump on their knee and has to go to the emergency room and get a couple of stitches or something, I don't need to know about that in the middle of my day. All that's going to do is distract me from what I need to do and be focused on during the day, which is making money for our family. I need to be game on for that. I need to be in state, and I need to be thinking positively. So we had this conversation, and at first, I'm sure it came across as I don't love you somehow, but that's not what it is, you guys. What it is I do love you, and I want you to know that no matter what, it doesn't matter how, what's gone on the day before or whatever, no matter what, I love you for the rest of it forever. And what you need to know, though, is that just during this period of time, I have to be focused on something that's good for our family. So make sure, you guys, that you eliminate naysayers and negative Nancys in every way in your life. And if nothing else, if somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, you can't do it, Joy, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not whatever enough, you can't make that, you can't triple your net income. When somebody tells you that, use that as power. Use that to cause you to say, you know what, doggone it, I'm going to do it. No matter how, the more you say I can't, the more I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove the world wrong, and I'm going to go out there and be successful no matter what. Now, to do that, one of the things you have to do is you got to believe it. You got to believe you can do it. Now, here's what I'm talking about. It's been said that what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, right? So first you got to conceive it, right? So first you got to think to yourself, okay, there's this thing out there, right? There's triple income or triple net income or whatever the thing is that you want. So there's this thing out there that I want. Now I've got to, I can conceive it, I understand it conceptually, but then I got to believe that I can actually do it. And so once I can believe that I actually do it, and I've so I've conceived it, I believe it. Now I can achieve it, but I got to go do the work to achieve it, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, there's only 2 acceptable outcomes on appointments. This is something else that people think is absolutely crazy when I talk about this. But there are literally only 2 acceptable outcomes on every appointment you go on. Here's what they are. Number 1, sign an offer or a listing. If they don't sign an offer or a listing, there's only one other acceptable outcome. And by the way, if I'm on a listing appointment, I'm getting that listing today. I don't do a 2-step appointment. It's today. There is no tomorrow. I'm getting that listing today. Now, I'm going to get an offer or listing signed, and then the only other acceptable outcome is I'm going to schedule my next appointment. So if I go out to show somebody houses, and we do this with our buyer's agents all the time, right? So we know what their appointments are. So a buyer's agent said, hey, I've got an appointment with the Johnsons tonight. Fantastic. We'll follow up with you tomorrow, see how it went. So tomorrow comes, we say, hey, how was that appointment with the Johnsons last night? Oh, it was great. We looked at 6 houses, and they're thinking about a couple of them. Awesome. So did you write them up? Oh, no, I didn't get it written up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so great. So when's your next appointment? Oh, well, we didn't get that. Game over, right? I mean, you have to have that next appointment set. No matter what, you have to have that next appointment set. If you don't have that next appointment set, you lost. It ain't happening. You always have to do that. Same thing if I've got a phone appointment with somebody. When I hang up the phone, if I don't have a next appointment set, there's probably not going to be a next appointment. So make sure it's either get a signature or get a next appointment. All right, now let's talk about upping your game. I'm going to give you a couple of quick strategies here that are going to very easily help you to up your game in every situation. Number one, I want you to never, ever, ever say think. That word is forbidden. It is no longer a part of your vocabulary. No longer will you ever say the word think. Why? Because when I'm on an appointment, if I'm talking about them thinking about it, or if I say the word think multiple times, guess what? Now they think that they can think about it overnight. I don't want you to think about it overnight. I want you to freaking do something today, right? So that brings us to the next one. I want you to induce a yes state, and I want you to say today 7 to 12 times. Well, first of all, let's talk about the yes state. When I talk about a yes state, if I say yes, or rather, if I get them to say yes 7 to 12 times on the appointment, they are now in what we call a yes state. So they're conditioned subconsciously to say yes. What's interesting, if you've seen the movie Now You See It Too, or Now You See Me Too, I can't remember which one it is, but the one with Woody Harrelson and the magicians, they're in part of that movie. They use some NLP techniques, and this is one of them, by the way. But they use some NLP techniques to get this guy to think of the number 42. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing with inducing yes state. When I say this over and over and over again, I get them to say yes over and over and over again. By the time we get to the end of that appointment, all they want to do is say yes, and it's really easy for them to do so. Now, I also want to say the word today 7 to 12 times on every appointment. Why? Because, again, I don't want them to think about it. I want them to make a decision. When do I want them to make that decision? Today. Not tomorrow, today. So I'm going to say today 7 to 12 times. Very, very important. Then I want you to memorize 1 to 3 closes. You guys, this is really important. Memorizing 1 to 3 closes makes a very big difference. So what does that look like? Here's an example. At what price would this be a great deal for you? So many agents, they get out to an appointment and they don't have a closing line that they use all the time. So they get done showing houses and they wonder why these people didn't write it up. Well, they didn't say they wanted to write an offer. Well, did you ask them to write an offer? Well, no. Well, of course they didn't write an offer. Then you got to ask for their business, right? So I want you to memorize 1 to 3 closes. Ideally, you'll have 3 closes memorized at all times. This is one good one. At what price would this be a great deal for you? Because at some price, everything's a great deal, right? If it's $1, great. Let's write it up at $1. Fantastic. If they throw a crazy number out like that, then just say, fantastic, let's write it up at that amount. And then do it. Why? Because now I'm getting them in the habit of writing offers, and getting them in the habit of putting pen to paper means that they're in the habit of working with me and seeing me as the expert they trust. And so I want to remember, I got to get them to know, like, and trust me to be doing business with me. All right, here's another one. What would you like to write an offer? Super simple, right? Would you like to write an offer? You wouldn't? Okay. Then when would you like to see homes next? Would tomorrow or Thursday at 5 be better for you? All right. How about this? Which of the homes we've looked at today would you like to write an offer on? Which of the homes we've looked at today would you like to write an offer on? How about when would now be a great time to write an offer? I had a couple of guys on my team, they were listing agents, and they would say, hey, when would now be a great time to list your home with me? And people would laugh, and then they would give them a real answer. But it's a great, it's a funny, soft close. People like it. All right, how about this? This is my personal favorite, and this one you got to do when you're shaking your head back and forth. Are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? And remember, you're shaking your head back and forth as if to say, no, there are no other questions before we get started on the paperwork. This is an absolute fantastic close. And I'm seeing Joy Russell's got another great one in there. She says, after my client chooses the number 1 house out of 5, so she has them pick out, which of the houses do you like best that we've looked at today? And when they pick that one, then she simply says, how much would you like to offer? That's a great close, Joy. Fantastic close. What I'm saying to everybody on the call here is you need to have 1 to 3 closes memorized. And then we'll talk about ejection handlers another time, but that really also helps you to up your game. All right, so let's talk about working harder, right? Part of tripling your net income is you got to work harder. You got to work your tushy off. Yes, it's true. You're going to have to work your tushy off, especially in the beginning. There will come a time over years of hard work, if you've learned and you've studied and you've grown and you've been consistent over a long period of time, where it gets much easier. right? It's like pushing a rock uphill. Once you get to the top of the hill, you get to that tipping point, you push the rock up over the top of the hill, and it rolls downhill on its own. But you got to get the rock to the top of the hill. That takes working your tushy off. All right, that's a technical term, by the way, tushy. All right, so how about this? I want you to design and follow your perfect daily schedule, okay? So design and follow your perfect daily schedule. So go to our website, go to clubwealth.com/PDS, as in perfect daily schedule. It's in our blogs. That's a blog post. There's an hour-long video of me teaching you exactly how to do your perfect daily schedule. And there's a download that gives you specific examples of different types of schedules different types of agents use. So make sure you go in, download the perfect daily schedule, and implement it in your life. All right, next. I want you, as part of your perfect daily schedule, to start showing up in the office by 7:30 in the morning, Monday through Friday. Now, this isn't a forever thing, but you came to this webinar saying, I want to triple my net income in the next 89 days. Well, if you're serious about that, get off your freaking butt and get to the office by 7:30 in the morning. Oh, but Michael, I got to drop my kids off at school. Great. Drop them off early at a study hall. I know our kids had study hall opportunities in school. Find a way to make this happen. Get in the office by 7:30. You guys, how bad do you want it? You want to triple your net income? Let's do it. Let's get serious about it. All right, then burn the midnight oil. It's not forever. Now, I'm not saying you got to work till midnight every night. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are going to be days that you're going to burn the midnight oil. You're going to be working 5, 10, 20. Well, okay, that's not true, not 20, but you're going to be working, maybe it's 10, 12, 16 hours in a day. That's okay short term. That is not a good long-term strategy, but it is okay short term. So for the next 89 days, there's going to be some days like that if you really want to triple your net income. Do not do the following between 8 a.m. and noon. You guys, this is critical. Do not email, voicemail, text message, or social media. I don't want you checking any of this stuff. You're not going to check your email, you're not going to check your voicemail, you're not going to check your text messages, and you're not going to check your social media between 8 a.m. and noon. You can do it before 8 and you can do it after noon, but you cannot do it between those during those 4 hours. Then I also don't want you to talk to any other agents or anyone else in the office between 8 and noon. You don't get to talk to anybody in that office. Why? Because you need to be focused. There's only 3 things that you are allowed to do during that time from 8 o'clock till noon. Here's what they are. Write these down. Number 1, lead generation. Lead generation. Number 2, a lead follow-up. And number 3 is lead conversion. And here we're talking about converting the lead to an appointment. Okay, so I'm not going on appointments during that time. I'm only generating leads and following up with leads between 8 o'clock and noon. There's lots of ways to do that. I'm not going to get into all of them today, but understand that's the only activities you get to do between 8 and noon. All right, work harder. Holding 24 massive open houses a month. Okay, I'm sorry, not a month. This is during your 89 days. 24 massive open houses during your 89 days. So what I want you to do is go to clubwealth.com/massive real estate open house, right? Massive-real-estate. You can see it on your screen. But I want you to go to the website and search for that massive real estate open house blog. I want you to follow the checklist. It's super simple. You should average a minimum of 50 people per open house. Some of you think I'm crazy when I say that. It's true. And don't tell me, oh, but Michael, in our market, that's not possible. Listen, I got news for you. It is possible in your market. If you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. Go prove it to yourself. You can do it, and you can do it right now, and you can do it in your market. Believe me, it's possible. So members, you want to get 50 people, and really, ideally, you're going to get between 50 and 150 people out to your open houses, but you should average a minimum of 50. Then, minimum of 50 signs. That's one of the things, and people freak out about this. Oh my gosh, Michael, I can't get that many A-boards. I can't afford it. They don't have to be A-boards, okay? They could literally be, the cheapo Home Depot $2, open house signs. It doesn't matter. Is it better to have, branded signs? Absolutely, it's great. It's fantastic, but it's not necessary, all right? And remember, I'm just giving you a couple of the checklist items, but understand that there's an entire checklist. I think there's like an 89-point checklist on exactly what to do for your open houses so that you get 50 to 150 people. Now, listen, you might not believe that this is possible, but I'm telling you, we've had clients. Ewan down in Denver there, he went out, he did it his first time following our checklist. He got 89 people out to his first open house. Of those 89 people, 5 of them ended up doing transactions with him. That was 3 buyers and 2 sellers that did business with him because of it. One open house at an average commission of $10,000 each. That was $50,000 in commissions from one open house. So you guys, this does work, and it works all over the country. Make calls while you're at that open house during any downtime. Don't sit there and be on Facebook and social media and all this garbage. No, what do you, and by the way, I love social media. You guys know that. I'm all over social media. I know how to make money on social media. But social media is a long-term strategy, and right now we're talking about tripling your net income in the next 90 days, next 89 days. So how do I do that? I've got to get super focused, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on stuff that's long-term lead generation. So I'm going to make calls during any downtime I have, and I'm going to follow that checklist. So, and by the way, you can download the checklist for free on that page. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's awesome. Seriously, all you do is follow it. All right, now, host a client appreciation event. You guys, in the next 89 days, I want you to pick right now, when is your client event going to be? You need to have a client event. This is perhaps the easiest way to get income right away. It is super straightforward. It's not expensive. I don't care how extravagant it is. It doesn't need to be fancy. It could be a barbecue in your backyard. It won't matter. That's great. We have clients, I'll give you an example. Christy Lundy. I always love to use Christy. She's one of our coaches down in San Diego, California. And Christy had never done a client event before. And so when she started coaching with us, she was doing all kinds of prospecting and FSBOs and expireds and cold calls, and she was just beating her head against the wall with this stuff, and it was killing her, right? It was really wearing her out, and it was really depressing for her. And so we got her, we looked at where her business was coming from, and most of her actual business was coming, 90% of her business was coming from her sphere of influence, but 90% of her time, effort, and energy was being spent on cold calls and FSBOs and all this other stuff. So what we did was we challenged her to switch that. And so now we started spending 90% of our time, effort, energy, and money on our sphere of influence. And so the first thing we did was we held a client appreciation event. Now, I don't drink. She does, and that's totally cool. I'm not, I'm not judging anybody that drinks. It's cool if you do. It's cool if you don't. I personally don't. But she chose to do a happy hour for her client appreciation event. It cost her $250 to do this happy hour. She had about 40 people come out to the event, and she ended up doing 5 transactions from that one event. Now, what's really crazy is 4 out of those 5 people that did business with her because of the client appreciation event didn't even come to the event. You guys think about this for a second. They didn't even come to the event. Well, how did she get them? Because she followed the checklist, right? She literally went to the website, she downloaded the checklist, she followed the checklist, did every single thing on the checklist, and what would happen is she would call somebody and they would say, well, hi, Chrissy, what's going on? She would say, well, hey, I just want to give you a call. I've got a barbecue, or a happy hour coming up, and I just want to invite you out, and have a drink on me, and, I haven't seen you in forever. I'd love to reconnect. And they would say something like, well, we don't drink, so we wouldn't go, or we are busy that day or whatever. So for whatever reason, they couldn't go. But it's interesting you're calling us because we were just thinking about selling our home. You guys, client appreciation events, fantastic. You need to be doing at least 4 client appreciation events per year. Now, I want you to do the following with all your A, A+, and B clients. And in other webinars that we do, we talk about the definitions of each. But very simply, A+ is they've done multiple transactions, sent multiple referrals. A is they've done at least a transaction or a referral. And B is I'm pretty sure if I taught them how and reminded them, they would either do a transaction or a referral with me. So I'm going to take all those people that qualify under those 3 categories, and I'm going to do the following. I'm going to call them, I'm going to email them, I'm going to text message them, and I'm going to send them a video text. This is very important, you guys. I'm telling you right now, the single best thing you can do for your business right now, if you want to add 50% to your income right away, instantly, literally instantly, all you got to do is implement video text. We're getting 50% better conversion on video text than we do on just calls alone. Got to do the video text. It's super powerful. All right, and what does that look like? I'll show you in a moment. All right, so Darwinian referrals. So we're literally, if I want to make it so it's like Darwin, like the whole thing with Darwin is, you'd ring a bell and the dog would slobber, right? So if I want to create referrals in a Darwinian way, so all I get to do is ring a bell and everybody slobbers out referrals for me, right? That's really disgusting, but you know what I'm saying, right? So essentially, if I want to create that type of response, there's a system for it, and it's pretty simple. So we start off with those client events once a quarter. Make sure they're fun. They can be totally inexpensive. get your vendor partners, and we really prefer to talk to them in terms of partners, not just vendors, but get your vendor partners to contribute. Now, it's not okay to go to your lender and say, hey, I know I've never sent you a transaction that closed, but would you mind, contributing to my client event? No, that's totally inappropriate. You need to give, then ask, then receive. So what are you going to start with? You're going to start by saying, hey, look, I'm going to send you a bunch of business, and as things start to close at some point in time, I'm probably going to ask you to help out with some marketing or client events or something like that. That's a whole different story. Include a charity element. It's very important that at every client event you do, you have a charity component to it. There's lots of reasons for this. I'm not going to go into all of them today. But first and foremost, it's the right thing to do. We need to be giving back. So make sure you've got a charity element in everything you do. Second of all, people love it, and you get a lot more engagement that way. And third of all, it's the right thing to do. Okay, so here we go. Event ideas. How about, we've done Hawaiian luau's, we've done baseball games where we'll go and we'll get the cheap seats at the baseball game. There's a picture of one of our client events. In fact, some of you might recognize that little gentleman on the right there. That's Austin. He's my son. And that was him and his friend Mason at a Mariners game. We took, I think we had 300 clients at that game. And we got the tickets for $10 each. So yeah, we spent, what was it, about $3,000 on that event. But guess what? They were almost entirely A and A plus clients that came to that event, and we got a ton of business out of it subsequent to the event. Halloween hoedown. So we had a big barn at our house, and so we did a hoedown in the barn. We hired a DJ, we had bobbing for apples, we had a costume contest, and it was awesome. We gave away prizes. It was super fun. Lots of fun stuff for the kids to do. Bounce houses are popular for that kind of stuff. Pictures with Santa. I will tell you, that's Jeremy Mellick there. He's an agent in Maple Valley, Washington, and he does a great job on his photos with Santa events. I'll tell you, this is nationwide probably the most popular event that we see done nationwide. What you got to do is you got to get the Santa, and we have a system for this too, by the way. For those of you that are Club Wealth members that are watching this right now, understand if you're in coaching with Club Wealth, we have a Trello card for all of this. All you got to do is reach out to your coach and say, hey, can I get the Trello card for the Pictures with Santa event? And he'll give you the checklist. He or she will give you the checklist for every single thing you need to do to pull off that event properly. Including links to the national database of Rent-A-Santas. And I know it sounds insane, but there is literally a national database of Santas for hire. Anyway, so they'll give you that, and then there's also, you got to have a photographer, and what we recommend, for example, on this event, take the photographer and work some out with them, right? Say, look, I'll pay a certain percentage toward this, but what I'd really like to do is I'd like you to give them the first picture for free, and then if they want more pictures, they got to pay. They got to buy them from the photographer. And that way you can usually or oftentimes get the photographer for free. And a lot of times people say, wow, you did such a great job on those photos with Santa. We want you to come to our family photos this year, or something of that nature. All right. Holiday auctions. We've done this a couple times, and we did this for the local food bank when I was on the city council. And one time we raised $21,000 at one of our holiday auctions for charity. It was awesome. Super Bowl parties, great stuff, right? And it's not complicated, right? A Super Bowl party, what's that cost you? Some chips and some dip? I mean, really? It's not that much money. People enjoy it. Oh, you got to buy some pizza probably, right? So there you go. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to do a Super Bowl party, and yet it's super fun, and you get to watch the Seahawks win. I'm totally joking. Well, they will probably again, but that's a whole other story, and I'm sorry if you're not a Seahawks fan, but the rest of the world is. So anyway, I'm totally joking. That was for Garrett, by the way. Shout out to Garrett and the other 3 Broncos fans out there. All right, that being said, movie night, right? Movie night's a big one. So movie nights are a little bit more expensive. If you're in tier 3, 4, then we recommend the movie nights. They're a great one. I wouldn't do them exclusively. I'd do maybe one a year at most because of the cost, but they're a great one. Another thing that we've had clients do that's worked really well is Easter egg hunts. We've got clients that have actually had 2,500 people come out to their Easter egg hunts. They're great events, and they turn them into an entire community event. But the cool thing is, because the agent's putting it on, they're the celebrity, right? Their branding is on everything. They get to get up, grab the microphone, say, thanks for being here, everybody, and you got 2,500 to 4,000 people there, and that's a big event, right? This is a whole nother level. But we've got clients that are doing it, and let me tell you, every single time they do, they're getting business out of it. And the nice thing is they can get the city to help promote it a lot of times, all kinds of cool stuff. There's actually 33 touch points per event. We're not going to go into all of those today, but it's social media posts, email, snail mail, calls, putting it in your newsletter if you're sending out a physical newsletter. All that kind of stuff really makes a difference. Again, we're focused on get that event done so that we can get to our triple net income in the next 89 days. All right, let's talk about working smarter. First and foremost, you have to master lead follow-up. Lead follow-up is where it's at, you guys. And write this down. The fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. All right. Speed to lead has got to be less than 30 seconds. You cannot take more than 30 seconds. What happens is if you wait more than 30 seconds, in the first 5 minutes that lead comes in, if it's an online lead, for example, that seller's getting, or that buyer or seller is getting 4 to 5 other calls from additional real estate agents. Do not drop the ball on lead follow-up. You got to be fast and you got to be tenacious. Next thing I want you to do, if they don't answer the first time you call, I want you to double dial them. What does that mean? So they don't answer, don't leave a message. Hang up the phone, call them right back immediately. Literally, right then. And some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to be ticked off. They're going to be so mad at me if I do that. Listen, all you got to do is say, oh, I'm so sorry. Sometimes my system calls you twice. They don't need to know that it's not an automated system. It's your system, right? You have a system for how you do this, and your system is it always calls them twice if they hang up or if they don't answer. And so do the double dial right away if they don't answer. You'd be surprised how much traction you get out of that. Then if there's still no answer, then you're going to leave a message, and you're going to do a video text, and I'm going to show you exactly what that video text looks like in just a moment. But you're going to send them a quick video text from your cell phone. Next thing I want you to do is send them a text message. And then I want you to start your 3x3 follow-up. So here's what that means. By land, air, and sea, that means call, email, voicemail, text message, and video text message, right? So in all these different ways, I'm going to follow up with them 3 times a day for the first 3 days, 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks, 3 times a month for the next 3 months. Write that down. 3 times a day for the first 3 days, 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks, 3 times a month for the next 3 months. This is very, very important. And I know that's tenacious, and some of you might think that's over-aggressive. I'm telling you, it works. Trust me. All right, then I want you to use the script. This script is absolutely the bee's knees script. This is the single best follow-up script you will ever memorize in your entire life. I promise you, memorize it word for word. Here we go. What you don't want to do not call them up and say, so are you ready to sell yet? Or so are you ready to buy yet? That's very salesy. What I want you to do, however, is I want you to call them up and I want you to say, I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end. Again, it's I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end. This is the world's greatest follow-up script. It works every time. Their response is almost always the same, right? Their response is, oh, no, it's not you, it's me. It's like that girl in high school, right? For guys, for those of you that can empathize with me on that one. But anyway, the long story short is it puts you in a position of being a servant who cares instead of being a sleazy salesperson, right? We don't want to be skeezy salesperson. And so memorize that script and use it every time you make a follow-up call. Now, part of working smarter is the new lead video text. So when I get a new lead, I'm going to send them a video text message right away. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank them for reaching out to me. I'm going to mention my name, right? So, and then I'm going to say I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you prefer to set up a time to see the house, be happy to do that as well. Let me know. So it's really simple, right? I'm going to grab my phone, and here's exactly what I say. Grab my phone, I'm videotape. I turn the selfie cam on, and I hit record. Hey, thanks for reaching out to me on that house on. I'm sorry, I totally screwed it up already. Can you tell it's been a while since I've done this personally? All right, here we go. So I'm going to say, hey, thanks for reaching out to me on that house. Or I'm sorry, say property, not house, because you might be dealing with land. So, hey, I just wanted to thank you for reaching out to me on that property. And my name is Michael Hellickson. Happy to answer any questions you might have. If you prefer, let me know, and I'd be happy to set up a time to show it to you. Let me know. Hang up the phone. That's all you got to do, and you send that message to them. It's 15 seconds or less. Now, when you record it, you need to be in a room with no natural light. Why do I need to be in a room with no natural light? Because I don't want them to be able to tell if I recorded that during the day or at night. And you'll notice that the language that I used was evergreen. So I didn't mention the street name or their name or anything like that, because I'm going to have a stock video recorded all the time that I can just use. So if a lead comes in, doesn't matter what time it comes in, I can hit that video. And it doesn't matter if I'm dressed or if I look great for video or not, because I've already got that recorded. Now, When I am dressed for work and when I'm ready for it and a good lead comes in, I'll respond and I'll personalize that message. So I'll say, hey, John, thanks for reaching out to me on that property on 123 Main Street. My name is Michael Hellickson. Happy to answer any questions you've got. If you prefer, I'd be happy to set up a time to take you out and show it to you. Let me know. And that's it. And then I hit send. And that actually gets even better response. Now, that being said, what do I do with old leads? With old leads, I'm going to send a video text as well. This video text is going to start off, and we've had this happen just, in fact, this last week. One of Brian Curtis's buyer's agents did this exact same thing. She sent a text message out to 58 contacts. I'm going to try and remember these numbers exactly. He told me yesterday. I think it was 58 contacts. And out of those 58 contacts, she sent this video text out and got 11 responses and set like 3 or 4 appointments right then. I mean, it was within seconds. We taught this on a webinar yesterday, and literally one of our clients, Dana, she literally went in and she did exactly this during the webinar and literally had 30 responses during the webinar. It was crazy how fast she got those responses. So when you do this, make sure you've got a couple of hours to handle all the responses you're going to get. I kid you not. You've got to be Johnny on the spot with those responses. So here's what you're going to send. So it's a video, again, same thing as the other one, where now I'm just going to say, hey, it's Michael. I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end. Just checking to see if you're still interested in looking at some homes. I'm going to be setting up appointments for this weekend to show for all our showings. So just let me know. That's it. Just super simple. And that's even more than you have to do. I mean, it literally could be as simple as, hey, it's Michael. I just wanted to see if you're still interested in buying a home. Let me know. It literally could be that simple, and you would be blown away with the amount of responses that you were going to get. That being said, you've got to do video text. I cannot say this enough. All right, more working smarter. So I want to make sure that I'm buying 55 leads per month. So if and we'll talk about how to make that happen later, but just understand, ideally I want to have at least 55 leads per month coming in. Some of my favorite sources are leadslikecandy.com for sellers leads. That is the best seller lead source on the planet. I was at one point in time very consistently listing 8 homes a month out of that one source. My best month ever, I listed 30 homes out of that one lead source. Kid you not, it's phenomenal. Our clients are consistently getting a 25 ROI, anywhere from 12 to 25 ROI on that source. That means for every dollar they spend, they're getting $12 to $25 back. That's big. That's as good as it gets, you guys. Best lead source on the planet right now. For seller leads especially. Their buyer leads are okay, but their seller leads are rock solid. All right, next, Realtor.com. You know, there's a lot of talk out there about Realtor.com versus Zillow, yada, yada, yada. And here's the reality. Realtor.com and Zillow are more of a today lead source than like a Facebook lead and those sorts of things. So they're a little bit more of a today lead. What I will say is, honestly, it ebbs and flows. At times, Realtor's better. At times, Zillow is better. Right now, Realtor.com is better than Zillow. The leads tend to be better. We're seeing better conversion rates on those leads. They're working out better. Craigslist. Craigslist is fantastic, and it's free. And let me tell you, regardless of what your tier you're in, it's a great source. We have, Brian Curtis. I was talking about Brian earlier. Brian literally is right now getting 5 to 15 leads a day from Craigslist. Coaching clients, we have a strategy for this. You can just get with your coach, have them send you the card on how to do Craigslist ads. One thing that I want everybody to understand, the best way to get leads on Craigslist is to avoid the fatal 4. And this goes for all of your marketing where you want direct response from buyers. Never advertise bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, or price. If you'll omit those 4 things, you'll get better results. Again, it's bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and price. Those are the things you do not want to advertise if you want direct response. All right, Facebook is a 6 to 18 month lead source, right? And we love our partners like Commissions Inc. and Ylopo, and there's a lot of partners that we work with that we get great leads from. And a lot of those leads come from pay-per-click, and a lot of those leads come from Facebook. I just want you to know that those are a longer-term lead. So if I'm trying to triple my net income in the next 89 days, I need today leads. So I'm looking at leads like CandyRealtor.com and Craigslist. And so there's a lot of other ways to do this, but I'm going to hit my sphere just like we talked about, and I'm going to do these other lead sources. Now, let's talk to KPIs. What do I need to accomplish on a daily basis to triple my net income in the next 89 days? First and foremost, I want to talk to 25 people a day. Now, that sounds like a lot, and it is. It's going to take work, but guess what? It's worth it. So I want to talk to 25 people a day. That could be my follow-up calls. That could be fresh calls. That could be, whatever. Just I want 25 people a day. It could even be people from my sphere of influence, but I got to have 25 conversations a day. Next, I'm going to add 5 people to my CRM every day. I'm going to set 2 appointments a day. Now, some of you are thinking, Michael, I'm struggling to set 2 appointments a week. Well, you know what? Then get more tenacious about setting appointments. I'm going to give you an example. My son, Austin. Austin is 15 years old. Let me tell you something. This kid's been working for me for a year now in the company, and he's a salesperson. Just like all the other salespeople in the company, he makes cold calls. That's what he does. And hour for hour, dollar for dollar, he is our top sales guy. Why? Because he just is fearless. He just does it. And literally, the other day, he comes up to me and he says, Dad, I want to go play basketball with my friends. And I said, did you set your appointment? Because his requirement is 1 appointment a day. I said, did you set your appointment? Well, no, and he had done some other stuff. He got distracted and was doing some other stuff. I said, well, okay, you can go play basketball as soon as you set your appointment. You guys, you need to make your fun time a reward for doing what you need to do in your business, and that means setting your appointments. So 2 appointments per day. Then I want you to write 2 transactions a week, close 4 transactions per month, and literally, by the way, these are very conservative numbers. If you're very, very focused, you can do this. Closing 4 a month sounds harder than it is, but you have to be focused on your perfect daily schedule to make this happen, and you got to be doing the right things in it. All right, leverage, the fastest, easiest way to triple your net income in the next 89 days. You ready for it? Here it is. Team leaders, go out and recruit more agents. Right now, I don't care what's going on. We can help you generate more leads. We'll teach you how to do that. That's the easy part. What I want you to do is I want you to get more and better people on your team. Get the best people out there on your team. Very, very important. If you're not a team leader, then join the right team. Here's the reality, you guys. Going forward, you're either going to be on a team or you're going to be building a team. But if you want to be hyper successful in this business, those are the ways you're going to make the most money in the least amount of time, is to either be building a team or be on a team. And not just any team. You got to be on the right team. There's plenty of crappy teams out there, right? There's lots of teams out there that don't provide you with the things that you need. But I'll tell you, the ones that do will help you eliminate distractions. They're going to provide you with administrative support. They're going to segment the workflow. So instead of you having to be the jack of all trades and do all these different things, and where you're the master of none, now you get to focus on what you're best at. What are you best at? Are you best at working with buyers? Are you best at working with sellers? Are you best at administrative work? What is the thing that you are best at? Let's figure that out. And once we determine what that is, let's create an environment where you can focus 90% of your time, effort, and energy on that one thing. That way, when you're doing that, now you're going to get way better results in way less time, and you're going to be happier doing it. Motivation, again, they're going to not only are they going to help you with motivation, but you're going to help other people on the team with motivation. There's a synergy that happens. It really truly is 1 + 1 = 11. It's not linear, it's exponential. So please make sure that as a part of the team that not only are you receiving motivation, but give it to others. Bring your energy level, bring your excitement level, and help others feel it as well. Education. The right team is going to help you have education that matters. And I'm not just talking about lip service education. I'm talking about here's what you need to do right now. Here's the meat and potatoes. Accountability. We definitely need accountability. And that goes for all of us. I need accountability too. So I've got people in my life that hold me accountable. Teams help that hold their teams accountable. Systems, absolutely massive. And we're not just talking about, checklists and that sort of thing. We're also talking about technological systems, right? Whether it's Commissions Inc. or other platforms, whatever they're using on the back end, but they're going to provide you with all this so you don't have to pay for it. 40 to 55 leads a month. That's what your team should be providing you with. And if you're a team leader, that's what you should be providing your teams. Now, in some markets, that number might be lower. If I'm in San Diego, I'm probably not going to be working 40 to 55 new leads a month. I'm probably going to be more like 30 to 40 new leads a month. But in most markets around the country, 40 to 55 seems to be the right number. And then you want a career pathway to leadership and retirement. Now, you may not want to be a leader long term, but maybe you do. And if you do, you need to make sure that your team is providing you with a pathway to do that. So what does that look like? Well, I'll give you an example. This right here is an example of a team structure. Now, what I want here, let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to pull out my handy dandy pen here. We're going to do a little spotlight, so maybe you can see this. Is that working? Can you guys see that? Nope, that's not working. Okay, that just went to the wrong slide, so we're not going to do the pen thing. That's not going to work today. But what I will tell you is that on the top of this graph, you see CWES. That's Club Wealth Expansion Services. So not only do we coach agents nationwide, but we also have expansion teams nationwide, so in lots of different markets. And so we literally invest in agents' businesses all over the country. So an example of that would be like Tristan Ahumada, for example. He's, many of you know him from Lab Coat Agents. Tristan's one of our coaching clients, and we also work with him on expansion teams. And so with Tristan, inside his expansion teams, he might have regional directors, that would be the RD, and all of those people are paid. If you look at that line on the right-hand side, you see profit and gross. The top of that line, everybody's paid on profit. The bottom, underneath that line, they're paid on gross. In each market, you've got local team leaders. Now, those local team leaders are there to help with recruiting, and they're there to, people grow up into that local team leader. The idea is that no matter where I start off in this, I can always move up and up and up into other positions that eventually allow me to get paid and while I'm retired, right? We all want to have that opportunity where we can get paid and not have to work anymore. Now, that's not going to happen for everybody because you got to work hard enough to get there, but if you're willing to put the time, effort, and energy in over a long enough period of time, that is possible. But then you look at the local team leader is getting a little bit of a piece of everything that's going on with the people underneath them, like the BATL, which is a buyer agent team lead, or to the right of that you see LATL, that would be a listing agent team lead. You've got listing agents, you've got buyers agents, you've got showing assistants, and then there's administrative assistants and all kinds of other people that you don't see on this chart. There's a lot of people involved in helping one person, and I'm not talking about the person at the top, I'm talking about every one person on this team. For each of us to be successful requires all of us to be involved. And so this system is a great example of how you can do that. So that being said, what I want you to know is that you've got to do something. If you want to be great, you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great, right? And when do you do it? You got to start today. Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks a lot like work. Thomas Edison said that back in the day. So think about this. A year from now, you're going to wish you took massive action today. So what is the massive action that I'm asking you to take today? It's simple. Go to our website. Go to clubwealth.com. Look at the blogs. Watch all the free videos on the blogs. Download the downloads. They're free. Get the information. Use that information. Learn as much as you can from it. And then when you feel like you're ready, reach out to us. Ask us to do a strategy session with us and give us the opportunity to look at your business, find out what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, figure out where you want to go, and then what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do to get there. And then guess what we'll do? We'll give you a 12-month roadmap for, okay, this is what you need to do in the next 12 months to get there. There's no sales pitch. In fact, if you want to know more about coaching at that point, you have to ask us for it. Because we're not going to just tell you, oh, hey, let me tell you all about coaching, because we're not that way. We don't do the whole high pressure sales thing. There's enough of that out there in the coaching world, and I think in large part that's part of the reason why we don't have the kind of turnover that a lot of these coaching companies out there have. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open it up for questions. I want to first of all thank all of you. I can't believe how many of you have stayed on. I know I went way over today, but I hope that you found value in this information, and I'm going to open it up to questions now. So start typing your questions in the questions box, and I'm going to turn my screen off, and I'm going to turn my camera on, and let's see if that worked. There we go. Hello, hello, everybody. Can you see me now? Right on, I'm here. All right, so go ahead and start typing your questions in, and I'm going to answer those questions. And if you want, you can also raise your hand, and I will unmute your microphone, and you can ask me any questions you want. And George, I'm going to open up your microphone. George, tell everybody who you are and where you're from. George, can you hear us? Okay, George's microphone is not working. All right, so I'm going to lower George's hand. All right, and go ahead. So let's see, what other questions do we have? Okay, we've got somebody from Palm Harbor, Florida. Let's see here. And you've got to unmute us on your end. I see your hand is up, but yep, there you go. Perfect. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm from Palm Harbor, Florida.
Hi, Robert. How are you today?
It's my pleasure to talk to you. My question to you is, what books would you recommend about mindset?
That's a very good question. Boy, let me think about that. What would I recommend for mine? There's so many good books out there. There's lots of new ones out there. I think in terms of straight mindset, I would start with because the topic that we're talking about today is tripling your net income in 89 days, right? So a couple of things you got to do you got to change that mindset about how do I feel about money? How do I feel about what I do? And so I would start with the Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's going to change your mindset. And then I would also read his Cash Flow Quadrant, because that's going to change your mindset about what do I do? How does what I do fit into what I really want to be doing? And do I want to be an entrepreneur, or do I want to be a business owner? So those would be two good ones. Another one that I really love, let me see if I've got a copy of it on my desk here. I don't see it. I usually have a copy on my desk. It's not there. Okay, so it's Secrets of the World Class by Stephen Siebold. I love that book, and it talks about the mindset difference between people that are world-class thinkers and people that are middle-class thinkers. So if I could pick any of those books to start with, that's probably the easiest read and probably the first one I'd start with. So Secrets of the World Class by Stephen Siebold. All right, and any other questions, Robert?
No, thank you very much.
Right on. Thank you very, very much for that. Appreciate you being on today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mute Robert out, and I'm lowering his hand. And Robert, if you have any other questions, feel free to raise your hand. We've got time for about one, maybe two more questions. We're literally running out of time here. So who else has a question? Go ahead and either raise your hand or type it into the questions box on your screen, and we'll get right to it. And okay, Lisa is asking, is this being recorded so that we can re-watch it? And yes, Lisa, it is being recorded. I just looked up and had a little panic attack for a second there. I wanted to make sure it was actually being recorded. And yes, it is. Hopefully the recording worked out properly, and we will make it available. It'll be on our website. All right, Alma, how are you today?
I am doing great. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Tell everybody who you are and where you're from, and then share your question with us.
This is Alma Moreno from Murrieta, California.
Right on, right on. So tell us, what's your question for us today?
My question is, on those events, you said you have a checklist. Where can I get that checklist? I turned in pretty late on the webinar.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's fine. Just go to our blog. So go to clubwealth.com. And there's literally, I think the checklist for the client events is like 89 or something like that bullet points. There's a lot of bullet points on there. It's very detailed, and it's free. So go to the blog, scroll down on the blog until you find client appreciation events. You might have to hit view more a couple of times down at the bottom of the page to get to it, but it's right there on the website for free.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate you being on today. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute you out, and we got time for one more question. Who's got that last question for us? It's your last chance. Come on, you guys. I see all you guys on here, and I recognize so many of the names. I got a lot of Club Wealth members on here right now. I see Case and Janice, and I see Greg. I got Elgin's on here. Mr. Hawaiian Vacation Giveaway drawing winner from last year. By the way, that was awesome. I'm so glad you posted all those pictures of you guys flying first class to your Maui Ka'anapali Beach retreat there at the Westin with your oceanfront room. That was awesome to watch. Thank you for posting all that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are out of time. Let me see here. We got to go. I got to get on my next call. So that being said, I appreciate you guys all being on today. Thank you very, very much. We are going to give away, let's see, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give Robert, we're going to give you the 5. What I need you to do, Robert, I need you to type into the screen. I need you to type in your contact information, because we're going to give you 5 entries into the Hawaiian Vacation Giveaway drawing for your question today, for being the top question of the day. And everybody else, hopefully you've already joined our Facebook group. It's Club Wealth Facebook group on Facebook. It's free, so make sure you get in there. And other than that, you guys go out there and remember, you got to think about this. In your mind, you've got to understand, inside you, there's a world-class person ready to come out. You might not feel like you're world-class today, right? It might be a tough day. It might be a tough week. You might be having a tough year. It doesn't matter. You have to choose. What are you going to be today? If I'm going to be world-class today, I got to act world-class today. And even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to act as if. So go out there and be that world-class person today that you know you can be. I appreciate you guys being on today. Have an awesome day, everybody. Talk to you soon.